Okay, so in the last video we talked about lettering and snacks. Lettering and snacks. Now we're going to talk about plants and foliage. And you might be thinking, well, mine is in the city. I don't need to draw plants. You think there aren't plants in the city? There are absolutely plants in the city. There's plants everywhere. Plants are going to take over this world when we all disappear. Haven't you seen Life After People? That stuff starts happening immediately after we leave. It's crazy. Where are the plants? Well, even if they're just little weeds in a parking lot or between the cracks on a sidewalk. Little tiny dots and things. I'm basically making this shape over and over, very small, sometimes skinny, sometimes fat, sometimes short, sometimes long, but just that little open-ended, elongated sort of oval-y shape. I'm just doing that in different directions. I'm just altering it in different directions. Like this. Every so often. And it makes for great little weeds and things. And as you go off towards the horizon, you can just start putting little dots. Not a lot of them, just enough. If this is like a field of weeds or something, just a couple little dots in the horizon will help. You don't want to overdo it. But you got little weeds along the side. Maybe you have ivy creeping the walls. There's an awful lot of climbing plants in the city, especially in alleys and between buildings. You can kind of start making little wiggly lines. They don't even have to have leaves on them. They can just be little wigglies and have a leaf just here and there, just to show that they're plants. If you have a run-down building, like a really run-down abandoned building, they'll be coming out the windows. I've seen abandoned buildings. Those things are everywhere. The plants, not the buildings. Well, the buildings too in some places. And of course, there are the plants that the city tries so hard to brighten up the entire town with. There are little planted trees every so often, planted in little rows in those little squares of dirt that you see on the side of the street. Maybe in like little communities and things like that. Just little trees, that sort of thing. Maybe if this was a family business, outside there'd be like a little hanging basket on the side of the building with a plant hanging out of it. Plants are terrific for giving a very organic feel to a very straight up and down kind of background. It gives like a nice wiggly sort of look to it, so it's really nice and believable and homey and that sort of thing. And of course, if you've got like a city park or something, you're gonna have to have an outline for trees in the background. Maybe there's a park back here. Maybe there's something, who knows. Maybe it's right next to the edge of the city where there's a little bit of fields and everything. Notice I'm just making little wiggly lines in the background. I'm not sitting there drawing every little leaf until it's like a big leaf explosion and everything. No, I'm just doing like an outline of it. These are way in the background. These are not things that we are looking at right up close. So we're just doing a couple little lines. So try to incorporate plants even in your cityscapes, even in just maybe a few little weeds at the bottom of the building or in between the cracks in the sidewalk. Just a few every now and then, and it'll really give more believability to your cityscapes and to your buildings. And try to walk around your city or your town and look for all the greenery that is there, and you'll be surprised how much you actually notice. So check it out, take a look, go take a walk, and check out all the plants. Okay, and we are on to our third and final step of creating believability, and that is wear and tear. Now, unfortunately for us, our buildings weren't sent down from the sky by benevolent aliens and made out of fantastic adamantium that will last 1,000,000 years. That would be cool if they were. They were made out of brick and stone and mortar and concrete and other man-made things that break down a lot faster than most people think they do. But what most people don't ever remember when drawing buildings is that you have to represent that. You have to give a surface to your building. You have to give some wear and tear to your building. Because in human psychology, we tend to associate big stone structures with things that are strong. And if we think things are strong, we don't imagine those things breaking. We don't imagine them getting all cracked up and messed up. So we don't draw them that way. But they really need to be drawn that way because buildings often have little cracks at the joints. They have little stress joints here and there. They have dirt marks from where it rains all the time, collects under the windowsills and trickles down the building. Two little mussy dirt marks. A building that you might have previously thought was extremely clean, you can go back and look and see there's a whole lot of dirt trails and everything under the windows. Maybe it's an old, busted up, facility that hasn't seen a whole lot of use in years. Maybe there's a crack in the window every so often, something like that. Maybe there's just a surface to the door to kind of intimate that it has a grain because it's made of wood. One of the easiest ways is to add little just dots and lines, dots and lines. Every so often, just little flecks across your building to show that it's not a pristine box. It's a solid shape made of stone. Give it a couple of little dots everywhere. You don't have to go crazy. Don't want a polka dotted building. But just enough. Just a couple dots here and there to show that this is, in fact, a man-made structure made of stone. Not a perfect little Lego building. Now you see this perfect edge on the edge of the building. Buildings often don't have those. They have when they're built. Then after a while, they get kind of chips out of the building. You can show that with a couple little wiggly lines. Maybe a chip here and there. Makes it look a little bit more real. A little bit less like a perfectly drawn little box. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Maybe they got a couple little stress lines up here on the cornice. A couple of dirt marks on the ground from where people's feet are always splashing up mud or what as they walk by. And that sort of thing. And it goes without saying in sidewalks always have big old cracks in them. You've seen them a million times. You've stepped over them on superstition, perhaps. I know I have. Sidewalks always have cracks in them. Now, the further away you are, the less you will see them. So if you want this to be a really worn-in scene, maybe on the crummy side of town, then even though we're kind of far away from the building up here, you want to have lots and lots of cracks, just to show that this sidewalk has seen better days. If this is a nicer area, then the further away you are from the sidewalk, the less you want to see those cracks, because they're probably really tiny cracks that can only be seen close up. But you still want to give a little bit of texture to them. So maybe you'll just have one or two, because there's always one or two, even in the nicest sidewalks. So sad. And of course, as you go further away, you won't see any at all. You want to add in those dots. Dots are a great way to show a stone surface. Dot, dot, dot. Maybe a little circle here and there, just to show it's kind of dirty. That sort of thing. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to do at all. You just have to kind of loosen up and take the edge off of some of your buildings. Unless you want to show, like, the evil mega million corporation building that our hero is going to break into. In which case, it's great to have an ultra sharp, ultra sleek building with hardly any surface other than like a nice shiny metal surface and that sort of thing. Because that sort of sells the personality of the building. It's sharp, it's sleek, it's businessy, it's modern, that sort of thing. Wayne Donuts is apparently a family-owned business who gives out free snacks. Has their own little hanging plant basket here on the side of the building. They've been around for a while. They're clearly not a mega million-dollar corporation, expensive building. So they get a little more wear and tear. They don't have 100 window washers out there power washing the side of the building every day. The upper floors are kind of shiny though. Still kind of shiny. But wear and tear is not hard to do. In fact, 90% of it is just putting dots and lines and a couple little squiggles every so often on the surface of roads or on your building, just to give it a little more personality, just to give it a little less perfectly shiny white box kind of look. And it really isn't that difficult. And that's why it's the finishing touch on your page, because you do it last and it just takes, if you're taking your time, maybe 10-15 minutes. But usually only takes me about 5 to just go in there, do a couple dots, a couple little tiny cracks, little floaty things, and then you are pretty much done. So I hope that you'll take at least 5 minutes at the end of working on your project for this class and just add in a little bit of wear and tear. I'm putting in some shadows right now, but just a little bit of wear and tear on your buildings and your signs and all those sorts of things, and just see where it takes you. See if it doesn't make your page come together just a little bit better.